of the High Court here in the country. Now, coming to you, Collins, because Edward spoke last, let's talk about the vetting process. Do you think this time round Parliament will actually stand with the people?
That's a very interesting question. To begin with, we have a parliament by law, but practically where I sit, we just have a rubber stamping house that is there to rubber stamp the appointments and all, of course, the policies and the bills of the executive. At the moment, what I can say is that we don't have an opposition per se, because the president has brought in the members of the minority party and also the majority party, that is the UDA, is also in government. And this parliament of ours is formed by people who are drawn from these political parties. And also that aside, we've seen most at times, most of the MPs claiming, if not shouting, that their work is to protect their bosses. Actually, if I may quote one of them, he said that they are like cows, they are just waiting for the shepherd to push them to the right side. So with the current appointments, as my colleague assured you, is that everything will go as planned. Integrity issues will be raised by citizens and, of course, by different organizations, but we don't expect anything from the National Assembly. Actually, if they will try to vet, let us just say vetting to the bare minimum, it will be a surprise to me and actually to most Kenyans, because we don't expect anything from the current National Assembly.
Okay, and that's another issue, the fact that we are seeing the legislature being an appendage of the executive. So no opposition, no parliament to help you. Who is for the people?
And this is a time that, a very interesting time that the people and the Gen Zs now must change tact. They must change strategy. This is their time now to fill that position. We have a vacuum in the opposition. Raila Odinga has shown the people, and for lack of a better word, allow me to use this on national television, the middle finger, and he's saying that he doesn't care, let people suffer. And I think you've been hearing even last weekend when he was a funeral of our colleague, may he rest in peace, in Siaya. You know, his MPs, he's sitting there, his MPs are saying, it's our time to eat. And as a person we think is a patriot and a statesman stands up and doesn't respond to that serious question, you know, it means that I think he's tired. And I think Raila now thinks that he's also sure that he might not also get that AU seat. So it is time to eat and retire. So unfortunate. This is the time now the Gens now must step in, make sure now they fill the opposition, make sure they begin mobilizing their colleagues and members to take ID cards, to take votes, make sure that that parliament, come 2027, is filled by Gen Zs. That is the only way we'll be able to check this government. Otherwise, as I was speaking, no opposition, no nothing. And maybe just to comment on whatever happened on the question of opposition, it's unfortunate that the ODM party at this point has shown again, once more, that it does not respect its partners. You know, jumping in government, then sending the SG on national television to say, you see, we didn't approve of this, but you see, at the same time, you're saying, we wish them well.
Yeah.
Double speak. What happened to Langata MP Jalango when he tried working with the government? He was crucified. What happened to Professor Tom Ojienda when he tried working with the government? He was crucified. But when others, no, the animal farm, when other animals work with the government, it's fine, and you can just wish them well.
Okay.
It's unfortunate.
But even as we talk about politicians, let's talk about Kenyans in general, because during this period, we equally saw some Kenyans come out and say, Mtuwetu. We're trying to eliminate that. But how do we eliminate that Mtuwetu kind of narrative if our parents and those who came ahead, for example, are still, you know, in their minds that Mtuwetu lazima awe kwa kiti for us to get development? Colin.
One thing that you should be aware of is that the politics of Kenya, as we speak now, has been regionalized. whereby people do believe that if my person is in power, then it means that I have closer proximity to power than the tribe or the community that is not in power. And actually, that is not true. One thing that we should do to eradicate that is that when you go to the rural areas where I come from, you will find that the majority of people have been conditioned to believe that for you to form a government, then it must be a tribal or a regional alliance. What we should do, one, is that the media should provide mass education, because you find that there are people who genuinely support these people because they believe positions belong to the community. And two, you will find that most of the leaders that are currently in position, they don't have a manifesto. So the only way that, of course they have a manifesto, but it's not a manifesto. The only way that they go about it is to ensure that they mobilize communities around them. And this can only come to an end if we can educate our people in the rural areas where we come from, where the majority are. Because as we speak, if we don't do that, then it will be hard to do away with this kind of politics, whereby when someone gets to power, he's protecting the community interest. But actually, most at times, you find that whenever your person, in quotes, is in power, you suffer the most, unlike the people who are not in power. You can see that President Moi was in power for more than 24 years, or actually 24 years. But the problem of banditry is still there. Education is still a problem in these areas. So it doesn't mean that when you elect for someone from your region or community, necessarily you'll be in a better place. Actually, with the current political organization, if I'm certain that my people are behind me, why should I go and develop my area and I know that they will vote for me because of my tribe? Regardless. I better go to another area that they don't believe in me so that I can woo them to my side. So actually the politics of Mutuetu eats the people who follow the person in power more than the people in opposition. You can see what is happening currently. ODM actually is in government and they are being allocated slots in the government. And it's not the people from the ODM region who are in government. They are the leaders of ODM who are in government, and they are benefiting more from even some people from other regions who fought for this government to come to power.
Okay, clearly the executive is changing tact. A rumor has it, the word on the ground is that Gen Zs equally need to change tact. What's the best way to do that?
The best way, as I said earlier, is that number one, we need to be sincere that at some point we'll have to need a leader. You can't still say we are leaderless. Still leaderless, we are tribeless, and we cannot sit somewhere. We must get a leader, sit somewhere that we're able to discuss together. Secondly, we need to make sure that what do we want? Do we want to be in government? Do we want to make the right choices? If it's true, then we must make sure, and I said earlier, we must make sure that we mobilize and also have more of the Gen Zs in the government. How do we do that? Make sure we get votes, make sure we have IDs, so that come 2027, we mobilize our own to be in parliament. So that now the things we want, since we know those in the parliament can't implement them, ourselves will now implement them while in parliament. So I think this is something that comes with the objectivity of this movement. We must be sincere with ourselves. We've heard that some people have been compromised in this movement. I don't know, yet to see. But I hope that all of us can be sincere enough to make sure that we change strategy. So I think that's how we can deal with it. And maybe if you allow me to just to answer on maybe dwell in one of the questions we've asked my colleague about Mutuetu. I think this thing begins from the top. You know, as we're speaking, and I don't know if I'm silent about it, you know that 95% of PSS are from one region? Are you aware? But people are saying nothing about it. So, if you see that as a community, people will think that, no, I think we also need to be on the table. So we mobilize our own. You see what Rigiji said, the deputy president, he said clearly, without fear, that we want at least 7 slots, to go to Mount Kenya. No, that was the Nyeri government.
That was 8, actually.
Yes, 8. And they were granted. And Kenyans are saying nothing about it. Rigiji can comfortably say that, me associate with my people. I want my people, and I fight for my people without any fear. And no one is saying anything about it. So I think it's something that comes from the top. And when some communities see those things happen, they will say that, no, PSCC, we must be part of the government. Look at what is happening in Kikuyu. That is Kikuyu MP, Kimani Chungwa. What he did, he allocated his constituency 1.4 billion on the roads. One constituency. All of us know Kikuyu is already developed. But he allocated only roads, 1.4 billion. While you give 5 constituencies in Western 200 million, to share among themselves. Such a community now will now say, even us, I think we must fight for our space. That's when now this question of Mutuwetu comes in. Whom do we push there to fight for our what? Our resources. We also want resources on our side. And if we continue like that, I can assure you, we will not finish this thing called Mutuwetu syndrome.
Okay.
We'll not finish it.
But then at the end of the day, how sure are we that the Gen Zs that you want to, vote in come 2027 will actually do things the way they're supposed to? How often have we seen those who enter parliament get compromised? How sure are we?
Actually, if I can answer your question.
Sure.
One is that when someone like Kimani Chungwa does the allocation of such money, we should actually blame our MPs, because we elected them to represent us, but they are silent when development is going to one part of the country. So we should blame the people that we elect. And 2, my colleague will allow me to differ with him. I think the position that the Gen Z has taken, whereby you are leaderless, to me it makes a lot of sense. Because 1, what Gen Zs want is not power. We don't want they don't want anarchy, or they are not hungry for power. They want reforms. And if you want reforms, it does not necessarily mean that you must be in that position to make reforms. Kenya is a country governed by the rule of law. Gen Zs are comfortable if the current president will remain in power, but he will implement the reforms. The problem that we're having at the moment is that the Gen Zs are trying to raise their voice so that the president will listen to them, but what the president is doing is actually running away from them. If we can make reference to what happened during the weekend and also some days that have passed, is that you clearly saw the president saying that he's not aware that people are being abducted in this country. You cannot be a president and you don't watch news. I'm certain he watches news. You cannot be a president and you don't receive intelligence briefs. I'm certain he receives intelligence briefs. People have been killed. Recently, we've seen that human rights organizations are saying that more than 50 bodies are in city mortuary. And what is ailing this country is deeper than we can see. Imagine a scenario whereby a police body can go to the city mortuary in collusion. Actually, I can say in collusion because the records are kept in the city mortuary. In collusion with the people at city mortuary, record people who have bullet wounds as accidents. Do we have, it's like nowadays, we are like maybe like Baghdad or so on, whereby police just shoot or anyone shoots anyone to the extent that bullets can now cause accidents. You can collide with a bullet. So the problem that we have at the moment is that the president should listen to the people. We've been to these public participations. At the end, what happens? Nothing. And you can see, when I started, I mentioned 2 things. Is where is the problem and who is the problem? The Inspector General of Police, Mr. Koome, is out of office. We are still facing abductions up to now. We have a new acting Inspector General.
So it's a systematic problem.
Yeah, the abductions are still there. Okay, now we are bringing in ODM members. And what this government is trying to color is that it's like presidential directives, even to his juniors, do not account for anything. The president said the other day that the police should release anyone that has been abducted. They should do away. Of course, that is not legal, but at least it is political. And because everything that has been going on in the country has been political.
Meaning he is actually aware.
He is actually aware. We anticipated that the police will style up. You saw that these demonstrators, actually, they don't harm anyone, and not unless when the police come to riot. You get the point now. So the problem that you're having is that it is either the president is assuming us, or the president is sitting whereby he's not seeing anything, or someone is lying to the president. And whoever is lying to the president, we must call him out and say that you are lying to the president. And the president should listen to the voice of the people. If he wants to stay and to lead this government, he should listen to the people.
Okay, because we're out of time. In 1 minute each. Protests are planned, Nane. Supposed to be the biggest of all. We've seen Occupy Uhuru Park fail, Occupy JKI fail. Do you think this time round they'll actually, get it right?
I'm very worried they might not. I think the government has sold out of fear to these young people. You've seen how these demos have been decreasing by each day. Yeah. So I think unless we mobilize well and they make sure that they mobilize and they have the turnout as the first demonstration, first and second.
25th,
25th, a memorable day, then they can. But unfortunately, I don't think so. Because I've seen, some are now being compromised, some are just worried, some are just confused, and this I'm saying it without prejudice. Some think that the only way for us to get there is to go on X and make noise. I think it's time that they disengage from the other strategy and focus on now getting into real power, which my colleague I think differs, but that is the only way for them to control the government.
Okay, briefly.
My position is it doesn't matter how many people go to protest. Actually, the purpose of the protest is to inform the regime that we are not comfortable with whatever is happening. So when you bring the police or maybe when you sell fear, it does not